Economy of the United States. The United States has a highly developed mixed economy. It is the world's largest economy by nominal GDP and second largest by purchasing power parity (PPP). As of 2024, it has the world's sixth highest nominal GDP per capita and eighth highest GDP per capita by PPP. The US accounted for 26% of the global economy in 2023 in nominal terms and about 15.5% in PPP terms. The US dollar is the currency of record most used in international transactions and is the world's reserve currency, backed by a large US Treasuries market. Its role as the reference standard for the petrodollar system and its linked eurodollar. Several countries use it as their official currency, and in others, it is the de facto currency. Since the end of the World War II, the economy has achieved relatively steady growth, low unemployment and inflation, and rapid advances in technology. The American economy is fueled by high productivity, well developed transportation infrastructure, and extensive natural resources. Americans have the sixth highest average household and employee income among OECD member states. In 2021, they had the highest median household income among OECD countries, although the country also had one of the world's highest income inequalities among the developed countries. The largest U.S. trading partners are Canada, Mexico, China, Japan, Germany, South Korea, the United Kingdom, Taiwan, India, and Vietnam. The U.S. is the world's largest importer and second largest exporter. It has free trade agreements with several countries, including Canada and Mexico, through the USMCA, Australia, South Korea, Israel, and several others that are in effect or under negotiation. The US has a highly flexible labor market, where the industry adheres to a hire and fire policy and job security is relatively low. Among OECD nations, the US has a highly efficient and strong social security system. Social expenditure stood at roughly 30% of GDP. The United States is the world's largest producer of petroleum and natural gas. In 2016, it was the world's largest trading country and second largest manufacturer, with American manufacturing making up a fifth of the global total. The US not only has the largest internal market for goods but also dominates the services trade. Total US trade was $4.2 trillion in 2018. Of the world's 500 largest companies, 139 are headquartered in the US. The US has the world's highest number of billionaires, with total wealth of $5.7 trillion. US commercial banks had $22.9 trillion in assets in December 2022. US global assets under management had more than $30 trillion in assets. During the Great Recession of 2008, the US economy suffered a significant decline. The American Reinvestment and Recovery Act was enacted by the United States Congress, and in the ensuing years, the US experienced the longest economic expansion on record by July 2019. The New York Stock Exchange and Nasdaq are the world's largest stock exchanges by market capitalization and trade volume. The US has the world's largest gold reserve with over 8,000 tons of gold. In 2014, the US economy was ranked first in international ranking on venture capital and global research and development funding. The US spends around 3.46% of GDP on cutting edge research and development across various sectors of the economy. The US has produced the world's highest number of Nobel laureates in the economics field. It is also the world's fourth largest high technology exporter. Consumer spending comprised 68% of the US economy in 2022, while its labor share of income was 44% in 2021. The US has the world's largest consumer market. The nation's labor market has attracted immigrants from all over the world, and its net migration rate is among the highest in the world. The US is one of the top performing economies in studies such as the Ease of Doing Business Index and Global Competitiveness Report, and others. History: Colonial era and 18th century. The economic history of the United States began with British settlements along the eastern seaboard in the 17th and 18th centuries. After 1700, the United States gained population rapidly, and imports as well as exports grew along with it. Africa, Asia, and most frequently Europe contributed to the trade of the colonies. These 13 colonies gained independence from the British Empire in the late 18th century and quickly grew from colonial economies towards an economy focused on agriculture. 19th century. In 180 years, the United States grew to become a huge, integrated, and industrialized economy, which made up about a fifth of the world economy. In that process, the US GDP per capita rose past that of many other countries, supplanting the British Empire at the top. The economy maintained high wages, attracting immigrants by the millions from all over the world. In the 1820s and 1830s, mass production shifted much of the economy from artisans to factories. New government regulations strengthened patents. Early in the 19th century, more than 80% of Americans engaged in farming. Most of the manufacturing centered on the first stages of the transformation of raw materials, with lumber and sawmills, textiles and boots and shoes leading the way. The rich natural resources contributed to the rapid economic expansion of the 19th century. Ample land allowed the number of farmers to keep growing, but activity in manufacturing, services, transportation, and other sectors grew much faster, so that by 1860 the population was only about 50% rural, down from over 80%. In the 19th century, recessions frequently coincided with financial crises. The Panic of 1837 was followed by a 5-year depression marked by bank failures and unprecedented unemployment. Because of the great changes in the economy over the centuries, it is difficult to compare the severity of modern recessions to that of early recessions. Recessions after World War II appear to have been less severe than earlier recessions, but the reasons for this are unclear. 20th century. At the beginning of the century, new innovations and improvements in existing innovations opened the door for improvements in the standard of living among American consumers. Many firms grew large by taking advantage of economies of scale and better communication to run nationwide operations. Concentrations in these industries raised fears of monopolies that would drive prices higher and output lower, but many of these firms were cutting costs so fast that trends were towards lower prices and more output in these industries. Many workers shared the success of these large firms, which typically offer the highest wages in the world. The United States has been the world's largest national economy in terms of GDP since around 1890. For many years following the Great Depression of the 1930s, when the danger of recession appeared more serious, the government strengthened the economy by spending heavily itself and, or cutting taxes so that consumers would spend more, and by fostering rapid growth in the money supply, which also encouraged more spending. Ideas about the best tools for stabilizing the economy changed substantially between the 1930s and the 1980s. From the New Deal era that began in 1933 to the Great Society initiatives of the 1960s, national policymakers relied principally on fiscal policy to influence the economy.